this passed without any focus that I'm aware of in national news media, except a couple of places. I think the Associated Press reported it, maybe in a tiny little article in the New York Times. But it involves North Korea. Kim Jong Un's sister, he's the leader of North Korea, as you know. His sister is Kim Jong. And apparently she is the second or third most powerful member of the North Korean leadership. She wields tremendous power. And she said a couple of days ago that North Korea's warplanes had repelled a U.S. spy plane that was flying over what the North Koreans consider their territorial waters. That happened Monday. And she warned of what she said would be shocking consequences if the U.S. continues reconnaissance in the area. Now, I've said before, I'm always intrigued by the way the North Koreans use English. I'm sure it has something to do with translation, the fact that they are so isolated and so on and so forth. But the language of what they threaten is usually just over the top. I mean, really. But anyway, the U.S. and South Korea, of course, dismissed all of this crap coming from North Korea. And the U.S. and South Korea suggested that North Korea ought to refrain from any acts of rhetoric or rhetoric that raises animosities. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's not going to happen, is it? Now, it is unclear, as it always is, if North Korea would follow through on her threats. Sister is using the usual rhetorical devices against the United States. We will burn you. We will set your concrete on fire. We will make your children scream in agony for their parents. Yeah, I mean, just insane stuff. But I've said before, I understand where that comes from in the North Korean mind, especially the leadership. Sure, 90% of it is probably propaganda, but the other 10% comes from generational experience of what happened in that country in 1950, 51, and 52. Right? Anyway, this the stuff from Sister is coming during a lot of animosity, heightened animosity over North Korea's barrage of missile tests earlier this year. Remember that? Seemed like every day they were sending up more missiles. This one's going to Jupiter. That one's going to the sun. This one's going to a different star system. And, all of it was bullshit. They're weapons. They're missiles that will be used to annihilate South Korea and the 28,000 American troops there, and probably Japan. The Koreans do not like the Japanese for very probably valid reasons. But those missiles that have been sent up have been like ICBMs. They are now capable of carrying nuclear weapons that would reach the United States. And I think it was last week or the week before when an effort was made to put up a spy satellite or a weather satellite, however the North Koreans labeled this thing. But it was supposed to be their first orbiting satellite, and it didn't make it. I think the rocket blew up a couple of minutes after launch. Can you imagine the project head of that situation, what happened to him when the rocket blew up? They probably made him blow up. I'm sure that's what the North Koreans do. They don't tolerate shit like that. You screw up, you're over. Anyway, Kim Jong is one of her brother's top foreign policy officials, and Sister claimed that the U.S. spy plane reached into the North Korean Eastern Executive. All right, I'll get this right. Let me start over. Kim Jong, Kim Jong Un's sister. She claimed that the U.S. spy plane had reached into North Korea's Eastern Exclusive Economic Zone 8 times on Monday. This will not stand. In a statement carried by state media Monday night, Sister claimed that the North Koreans scrambled warplanes and we chased away the U.S. plane. She said this, quote, "A shocking incident would occur in the long run in the 20 to 40 kilometer section in which the U.S. spy planes habitually intrude into the sky above the economic water zone of North Korea." Woo. I think what she's saying there is just, get your asses out of our territory. And earlier Monday, a statement from North Korea's defense ministry accused the United States of flying a strategic reconnaissance plane into what North Korea calls its inviolable airspace. And the ministry warned that in the future, approaching aircraft might be shot down. Sabrina Singh, who's deputy Pentagon press secretary, called North Korea's claim on the airspace violation, just accusations. And then she added this, quote, "The United States, as always, remains committed to safely and responsibly flying, sailing, operating anywhere that international law allows and alongside our allies and partners," end quote. Well, and then a spokesperson for the U.S. State Department, Matthew Miller, he said the U.S. urges North Korea to refrain from what he called escalatory actions and engage in serious diplomacy, end quote. I wonder how that term, escalatory actions, translates into the Korean language. All right, just wanted to let you know, one of the flashpoints for World War It's All Over may begin along the 38th parallel, dividing North and South Korea, where we have 28,000 American service personnel who are there ostensibly to protect, don't laugh, South Korea from a North Korean invasion. How do you protect against tactical nuclear weapons is a topic that usually is not discussed. What those soldiers are there for really is they're there as a tripwire. If the North Koreans were to launch an attack, for whatever reason, provoked, unprovoked, insane, or very sane, makes no difference, the 28,000 troops scattered around Seoul, South Korea, and various parts of South Korea would become debris. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Keep it lit. I'm Mike Malloy. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. The Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.